Drug companies tried desperately to get Twitter to block users who wanted poor countries to have access to the COVID vaccine. Ring of Fire's Farron Cousins joins me to talk about what's happening. This is an ugly story, man. I mean, the 10,000 foot, give it to us. It's every time you hear this story, it's nauseating to think that corporate America operates like this.
Yeah, what happened is you had a lobbyist for Twitter who over in Europe was saying, hey, listen, we're starting to see a lot of people calling for cheap vaccines, calling for waiving the patents so that these poor countries around the world can get the vaccine. Twitter, what we need you to do is we need you to look at and see how these people are violating your terms of service and get these tweets blocked. You had a lot of hashtags, free the vaccine, things like that going around. So you also had lobbyists from the big pharma companies making these vaccines, Pfizer, BioNTech, Moderna, who jumped on this as well and said, okay, that's a great idea. We're going to start sending Twitter these specific accounts because these people have the audacity to want the world to get vaccinated.
I mean, that's the headline. You had third world countries that said, can't you please share this with us? Because we have people dying by the thousands. And then the companies, I love this statement. Their joint statement is, we take social responsibility seriously. That was their joint statement. How dare you say we did this awful thing? Well, the proof is right there. Now we find out that The Intercept did all this work. Again, it's the same folks. It's Lee Fong with Intercept, great writer, great source of information. And he talks about how these bots were created by the industry. And every time anything would show up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, any of them, the bots would go in there and attack. I mean, big numbers of bots would attack. And they would try to give a rationale. So why it's okay for folks in third world countries to die because the American corporation or the European corporation won't share information with them. This story to me is just such an indictment of capitalism. I mean, it is. Capitalism, I think capitalism works, but when you see this kind of stuff, and again, there's no investigation of it. There's no attempt to really understand it. Corporate media won't do a damn thing about it. Corporate media doesn't cover this story. You understand that? Yeah. You will not see this story in corporate media. It'll show up on shows like this. But the truth is, this goes on all the time, doesn't it?
It really does. And what is concerning here, obviously with all of the releases of the Twitter files, we've seen, the partisan stuff come out. We've heard reports of, liberals being silenced, conservatives being silenced. This goes beyond that. This transcends left or right politics. And that is what people need to understand, because that is, as we've talked about for years here on this show, that's the slippery slope. Because if you're okay with it, it's okay if it happens to this people because I'm not this people. It's going to come eventually, and this is a absolutely horrendous continuation.
This story would have never been told, and Jack Dorsey would have gotten away with this again with all the crap he did to try to censor Twitter. This story never would have come out if Elon Musk had not said, you know what, I'm going to open my files. I want you to see what dirty freaks were running Twitter. The freaks that were running at least my organization, I can show you. Those same things were going on with Facebook and all social media. But had he not done that, we wouldn't know this story.
Well, and also huge credit, as you mentioned, to Lee Fong here, because he had to go searching through this. It was not laid out for him. He had to find all of this specific info, put the pieces together, and came up with this remarkable story.
Do you think Jack Dorsey would release this information?
Oh, hell no.
Yeah. Politicians in Iowa are actually trying to loosen child labor laws. We might be headed back to the days of children working in mines. Okay, you know what this is about, right? This is about, we have this influx of immigrant workers come into this country. It's the Koch brothers, it's a U.S. Chamber of Commerce, it's Associated Industries, it's it's all of these groups that want these workers coming into the United States to work for no money, cheap labor. And you know what? If you kill them on the job, it's okay. Ship them back to Nicaragua, Guatemala. If they lose an arm, ship them back to Mexico. Here we're talking about kids. We want kids working in jobs like mines, right?
Yeah, this this is just beyond disturbing. In fact, the ACLU said it is just crazy. It said this is crazy. But you're absolutely right, and I love the fact that you and I didn't talk about this story before we came on, and we both landed at the same spot. It all has to do with immigration, and sure, we've got the big crackdown because you got to send them back. You can't keep them here. So the corporations are looking at this. Well, if we can't have cheap labor from south of the border, we've got cheap labor sitting over here in the high schools. You know, these kids don't know any better. We can put them back to work like those old pictures of the kids walking out of the mines. That is what they want because, yeah, kids would be allowed to go back and be minors again under this new law. They'd work in animal slaughterhouses under this law. Jobs that back in 100 years ago, we finally said, this is dangerous for kids.
It's worse than that. It's worse than that. Okay. They lay out, we're going to allow kids to work in freezers, in meat coolers, in slaughterhouses. We're going to allow them to work in the logging industry, some limited in the mining industry. But it's crazier than that. We're going to let them work in demolition. We're going to let them work around circular saws, punching machines, all kinds of dangerous machinery. Why? The heart of it is this. You got the media. Their only story is, oh my gosh, we got to let these immigrants in. You got to let them in. Biden says you got to let them in. It's the humane thing to do. It has nothing to do with humanity. It has everything to do with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and Associated Industries saying, we got a new workforce. And you know what? They'll work for $3 an hour. And you know what? If they get hurt, it ain't a big deal. That's what this is about. You tell me, when's the last time you saw corporate media do a story on that?
Oh, never.
No, they don't do stories. It's either they're too stupid to understand how this connects up, or they don't want to offend their advertisers. It's the same story, isn't it?
Their advertisers are the ones who want to hire these children. I mean, you're going to have kids sitting in high school next to somebody who suddenly doesn't have an arm on Tuesday because their after-school job in the logging industry, they got it hacked off, but that's what they want, because at these kids, you can also pay them below minimum wage because they're not full-time workers. There's all kinds of loopholes that allow you to screw over this workforce. And so if they say, okay, if we can't get it from Mexico, we're going to go get it from the high school.
What are we hearing from corporate America? American workers are lazy. They don't want to work anymore. They want to sit home and just collect checks and drink and smoke dope. That's the message coming from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and Associated Industry and all of the people that want to bring these kids in to do these jobs for nothing. They want to bring the whole family in. You know, they want the family to work picking oranges and strawberries for nothing. And then, oh, by the way, let's let the kids work too. This is a sick, sick story, but it's happening. And it's not just happening in one state.
Right. Yeah, there's this nationwide push. We're starting to see more and more of this across the country.